Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman. I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast, do me a favor, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to Joe Walsh and Kent Frayn. Joe and Kent met at the University of Illinois in 2008 and have been starting small businesses ever since. In 2013, they launched a successful e-commerce site called DropCatch. The duo then launched HomeCatch Holdings in 2016 and began investing in real estate. They jumped right in and purchased several smaller multifamily complexes along with a handful of single-family flips. They have since expanded into something crazy, a $102.25 million portfolio, and we want to talk to them about how they've been able to do that. Let's welcome to the show, Joe Walsh and Kent Frayn.
Hey, John. Great to be here. I really appreciate you asking us on, and we're excited to share a little bit of our message. Thank you to everybody tuning in. I hope that we're able to pass something along here that's useful to you and your journey in real estate.
Absolutely, man. Listen, it's really good to talk to you guys. We kind of met through our Chicago multifamily meetup group, and really glad we got a chance to get connected. Before we jump into all the real estate and the massive growth that you guys have seen as partners and just building kind of your portfolio there, I want to talk about where you kind of started your friendship and the DropCatch e-commerce business that you built together.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a fun story. Joe and I met in college. We were 18 years old. We met in the dorms, and right away we were thinking about what kind of little businesses can we start. We were selling T-shirts on campus. We were flipping things on eBay. You know, the seniors would move out and they'd leave stuff behind. We'd scope it out and flip it. So Joe and I have been scheming for a long time. Yep. Then we graduated college. We went into our respective careers, and I was a broker selling commercial real estate, self-storage with Marcus and Millichap.
And I was doing advertising. I was in New York for a while. I was working on GoDaddy, HSN, some of those clients.
So doing big things, getting started in our fields. And we came together on this idea of a bottle opener that we had in college. And it was just something that we did because it was useful to us. And it's basically just this magnetic piece of wood. There's a wood with a magnet inside of it, and you open your beer and the cap falls down and gets caught. We did a little bit of research in college, so we had a good idea on how it would work.
The things that were important to us back then. You know.
So then when we were 23, we launched a Kickstarter, raised $50,000 and thought that was all the money in the world at 23, quit our jobs, and we've been doing this full time ever since.
Yeah.
So 2013 was when we started DropCatch. That's the bottle opener company. We've taken that a long way. We've really learned how to run the finances of a business, how to build systems that last to free up our time to focus on growth. And then we pivoted over to buying a few smaller apartment buildings in 2015. And now we're taking the leap over the last 6 months to a year. We've done the education and the outreach and team building to start doing syndication.
So I want to talk about the DropCatch business. You know, when we spoke before, you mentioned that while you knew that this was something fun and you kind of obviously discovered this while you were in college, you had some concerns about where the business may be in a super long term. You know, there's only so much that we can control as entrepreneurs, right, and investors. Talk to me a little about those concerns and what kind of led you into starting to look more into real estate.
Yeah, so, you know, one day we were sitting there doing our DropCatch thing like we normally do, and we both had started listening to Bigger Pockets, getting interested in real estate, and that was sort of the time we decided, can we really sell bottle openers for the rest of our lives? Of course we want to, of course that's the plan, but we just wanted to diversify a little bit more than anything. So that's when we decided, let's learn more about this real estate thing. So we started small, you know, getting smaller multifamily residential properties. Right now we still have the 5-unit, 3-unit, and 2-unit. And that was like the early stage. We liked the passive income, the long-term wealth generation that comes with it. And we felt like it would buffer us a little bit against our risky e-commerce business.
Yeah. And how do you guys manage that? So you have the smaller properties now, you've got your e-commerce business that you're running and ripping on right now. How are you managing kind of that portfolio? Do you have property managers? Do you guys self-manage? What do you do?
So right now we self-manage. That's what we've done to date. I think like every real estate investor, we flip between the two when they're getting started. I've got 10 buildings. Does it make sense to hire out management right now? And for us, we've decided no. It's something that we want to explore in the future. We know it's a system that we need and a teammate that we need in order to scale the way we want to. We're not ready to do it yet. It's always like, it's very difficult to give up that control over the customer experience that we're providing. So right now we self-manage, and we're open to it in the future if it makes sense with the amount of involvement that we'd want to have in it.
What are some of the biggest differences that you've seen in running kind of your e-commerce business and running, the multifamily portfolio?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that, because something we realized is there's a lot of similarities. Like when you go online and you buy a product, you're looking at, most everybody goes online first, like when they start their research process. And they either get drawn in by the pictures, the experience that they're having on the internet with it. So we did a really great job at branding out DropCatch, our company, for e-commerce, and we saw these similarities with rentals. So for example, if you put a rental up on the market, it's essentially like you're putting a very expensive product that somebody's signing a long-term lease on the market. So we try to put those up like they're a product page, really clean pictures, really outlining the amenities, and making sure we do good renovations in those apartments as well to sell it on them. So to answer your question, there are actually more similarities than you would think going across the two.
Yeah. So as you started working when managing these properties, was there any surprise of what stood out or anything that was different as you started working with residents in that space?
Yeah, the biggest difference that stood out to us is that in e-commerce, we were able to set up a lot of back-end operations that didn't really involve people. We'd implement certain kinds of technology where we have inventory coming into the States and it's getting sent straight to an Amazon warehouse. And we're just kind of responsible for setting that up and then letting it play out on its own. That does translate over to real estate a little bit, but it was a little bit surprising just how belly to belly, face to face real estate is. Everything is a personal interaction. Everything is your own presence as a brand, your own advocate, you being an advocate for yourself and for your company, and that translates to every interaction. It's not like it's all just back end, like getting taken care of in the cloud, right? It's person to person, face to face.
Yeah, I love that too, because we talk about multifamily, we talk about residents and tenants. And this really is a people-to-people business, right? You're dealing with an individual, and that resident has to interface with someone. So whether you self-manage or you hire a property management company, that resident's going to interact with someone, and their vision and their version of your product is going to be tailored by that individual. So obviously, if it's you're going to take way more care into making sure that they get a great vision and a great product and a great experience. But if you are working with a property manager or someone else, then part of what you have to do is make sure you can have them replicate an experience that really sells the overall appeal that you're looking to do, especially if you're doing something more high end, to your point with the finishes and the quality, taking great photos. So, the moment they really come into the space where they're looking at photos and they decide they want to tour the property to the moment that they show up on site, they're already formulating opinions. So they really just want to see that come through before they sign that 1-year agreement to make this their new home. So with that said, you guys have started growing there. You have seen really great growth there. And I know that you're doing two things that are really, really unique, right? So when we started talking, I know that you've now started to expand and bring on a partner to help you really go to the next level. Talk to me about, one, why did you think it was important to find a partner? And then two, what are you hoping to do now with this new partnership?
Yeah, so at one point, we got interested in syndication. Like most syndicators that start, they read the Joe Fairless book. Getting interested in apartment syndication was really interesting to us because we're able to work with investors to grow our portfolio. We've always had interest along the way from people, so this was like an easy transition. And then we decided, hey, we're going to only be able to, we're limited in what we can do at this level. So looking to a peer of ours that has done very well syndicating, growing his portfolio. We saw the opportunity to grow much more quickly, get into bigger deals, the area we wanted to be. So that's why we ended up reaching out to a partner and bringing them on in order to help us really get to the level that we wanted to be at.
And I think that's important, right? When you think about the growth, it's really taking an inventory of where you're at and your skill set, right? Where you've been. You guys have certainly built up your own portfolio. So it's not like you're coming in green or completely new.
Right.
But whenever you're working with other people, it definitely helps to have more experience on board, right? And having some folks who have built a larger portfolio and have that track record and that credibility, that's going to be key, because as you start talking to investors, they want to know that you know what you're doing, and having just a couple of deals under your belt may not necessarily instill the confidence that is needed to do some larger deals. As you've talked to this new partner and gotten to figure out roles and responsibilities into the partnership, give me some of the challenges that have come up and maybe some of the benefits that you've seen as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the benefits are way more prevalent than the disadvantages. I mean, Joe and I have been working together since we were 23. We're not lone wolves. We know what it's like to have to work with somebody else. So coming in with our partner was a pretty natural conversation for us in terms of being open to somebody else's idea. We came in knowing that we wanted to build or to buy 250 apartments next year. How are we going to get there? So we know what we want. And then the question is, how do we get there? We're going to someone with more experience that's done what we want to be doing. And we need to be open to his suggestions and his thoughts, because he's done it. He's there. And so it's about knowing what we want and then being open to somebody else's ideas that's done what we want to be doing ourselves.
So if somebody wanted to emulate that, right, and go out and find a mentor or partner who could bring that experience to the table, who has done the kind of deals that someone's looking to do, I mean, what would you need to do, or what did you do to incentivize them to come on board and be a partner with you?
Yeah, so I think the important thing, you'll hear it a lot, is like when you look for a mentor, you shouldn't go to them and be like, hey, I want to work for free. I want to like prove my worth to you. You got to go to them with like a plan, right? So our mentor, we've actually known him for quite a while. He saw us back when we started DropCatch, and we just stayed in touch, like networking. We were always top of mind with him, and we would meet up like yearly just to catch up. What are you doing? Oh, what are you doing? And it was the right time where we saw an alignment of goals too. That's another reason it was a no-brainer. Like, he wants to grow and expand his portfolio, and so do we. And so anyways, getting that partnership there was very easy at that point, because he saw what we did along the way. And the advice I would give is just show that value. Don't like say, hey, what do you want me to do for you? Like, show that you can add value and align with the goals that they want to meet as well, through your actions, not just your words. You know what I mean?
So we were able to come to him and say, hey, this is where we're going. This is what we want to do. We're not asking you to hold our hand. We're not asking you to do work for us. We know what we need to do.
Yeah.
We need some oversight as well. And that's why we're coming to you.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great point, right? If you're doing the work, asking someone with experience and credibility to just come and oversee what you're doing, that's going to be a much easier proposition than, hey, teach me everything you know, or show me how to do this, right? No one wants to take the time and just share everything that they've learned over all of the years of experience that they've gained. It's just not a very promising proposition. But if you're willing to do the work and you've demonstrated success, you've demonstrated the hustle, the knack to go out there and make it happen, and you've demonstrated the ability to get results, then someone watching that, as long as your interests are aligned, they may be willing to take a flyer or take a chance on you and see how they can make it work, especially if they don't have to invest something out of their pocket first. If it's more, all right, I'll let you work and then I'll kind of be here to support you as you're working, that's a pretty easy proposition that might get you into conversations with folks that maybe you otherwise wouldn't be talking to. I think the other thing that you said that really stands out is you've had this relationship for a while. So you were cultivating this with maybe not with the intention of, hey, at some point I'm going to ask him to be our mentor or be our partner, but just someone that you knew, someone who is having success, continuing to put yourselves around other successful investors and other successful entrepreneurs and building on those relationships. And when opportunities present themselves, now you're ready to go ahead and take advantage of it, which I think is key. Too many people wait until they have that need to reach out to someone where they haven't been cultivating relationships and they haven't been cultivating a network of people that they can tap into when it's time. And I think that's an important aspect to take is you need to get way ahead of this. If you're looking to raise capital from investors, you need to start working with investors before you even know what the investment is. You need to have people in mind from day one. So you always want to be nurturing these relationships and then figuring out what the opportunity is down the road. Don't worry about it right now, but just build the relationships and you can figure out where the opportunity is or who do you need to call to help you within any kind of situation. So really good tips there. I started to ask the question. I don't think we got an answer, so I'm gonna come back to it. What are some of the drawbacks, some of the challenges that you face with this new partnership? You mentioned that you two have been working together since you were 23. You have this new partner on board now. What are some of the challenges that you face in that new partnership with that third person involved?
Well, so the biggest issue for us, and it's really not even an issue because we were willing to bend on it, is, and it comes back to something we already talked about on this podcast, is just the management of the property. So Joe and I kind of had this idea that we're going to go after a 50-unit building, 75, 100-unit building, and we're going to put in place local management because we're not necessarily looking in the Chicago market. And part of our sponsor's success has been that he has had in-house management and has been able to cultivate a really good image and reputation amongst his tenants and just in his whole network with real estate. And he attributes a big part of that to in-house management, which we totally get and we understand. So for us, we understand the benefits of in-house management. We also understand the additional work. So for us, the question was, how do we balance scaling growth with also making sure that we're building a business that works under the model of our sponsor? Because ultimately we're asking him, how do we grow? How do we get to where you are? And this is the way that he did it. So we were more than willing to say, that makes sense. Maybe it's not what we were intending initially, but it's an example of an area where that was maybe a challenge for Joe and I because it's not what we had wanted or what we thought was necessarily the best play. But I also think that's why it's valuable to work with a sponsor. That's why it's valuable to work with somebody that is in the position of where you want to be, because we think we know the right thing and, maybe other people are doing it that way and it works. However, that's not true for my local company, my local experience, which is me, Joe, and the partner we brought in.
I think it's a great point. And that point you bring up here is really about third-party management. Is it better to be vertically integrated and self-manage your assets or hire a third-party manager? And there are a school of thoughts on both. I think at some point you scale up big enough where it makes sense to bring everything in-house. But maybe starting out, you need the credibility and the scale and the resources that a third-party management brings to the table. I would say anyone who's thinking about this, there's certainly pros and cons that you should consider. But first one is just, is there competent, capable third-party management available? That's the first question is, can you hire someone who can do a job as good or close to the same level that you can build out? If that's the case, then maybe there's a play to hire third-party management. If there aren't great property management companies available in the market you're looking into, then you do need to look internally to say, okay, well, how do I ensure that this thing is managed correctly? Even if you do decide to hire third-party management, you may want to put in those systems and processes that you guys talked about earlier, right? So there's still those checklists and those procedures to make sure that the unit turns are happening the right way, to make sure that the showings are happening the right way. All the things that you need to be successful. At the end of the day, there's another person who you're going to tap in to do it. So whether that person gets a paycheck from you directly or gets a paycheck from you indirectly through the third-party management company, it's still going to come down to what are the instructions that person is getting as far as what their expectations are when overseeing that property, right? So either way, there's some pros and cons and there's different school of thoughts on that. But there's obviously more challenges if you do it yourself, because now you got to build out a whole nother business, right? As far as building it all in-house, now you have other aspects of being a business owner that you have to build out as well. So there's certainly some complications, and I understand both sides of that equation. So it definitely makes sense that you all would have those conversations there. So let's talk about kind of where you see yourself going forward, because you've now been able to get this partner. I know that you're also having conversations with other investors who are either in a similar space, maybe a little bit behind where you guys were, who are now looking to scale, also maybe looking to get partners. How are you kind of helping those individuals in these kind of conversations?
Yeah, so where we're trying to go is obviously, like Ken said earlier, we're trying to get around 250 units within the next year. So in order to do that, that's why we brought the sponsor in. And with our current investors that we're working with, we plan to bring them into those deals. So that's how we're going to help them along. The other people that we work with that are in similar spaces, we kind of have like a little mastermind group that we have, and we meet up and kind of hold each other accountable for our goals. So even if people are a little bit behind where we are or a little bit forward from where we all are learning lessons each day that we're able to apply to the other's business. So that's been really helpful for us. We've met a lot of great people at your meetups as well, and we just stay in touch. And a reason that Kent and I love partnerships is because when we go to work each day, if I screw something up, I know that there's somebody else that also feels that, so we could always hold each other accountable. And then by expanding to other business owners in the area, we could all hold each other accountable. So we all make sure we're tracking towards our goals that we promised we would do. So.
No, I love it. That's great information, man. And to your point, I mean, that accountability is a great way to see progress. You see a lot of people who have great goals and very ambitious goals, but the one thing that they don't have is the accountability partners to make sure they're taking the necessary steps on a daily basis to move forward in the right direction. I think for you two, having that partnership and then being able to recognize that you needed that third party to help you go to the next level, that's key. And now that you're helping other people recognize that and taking those next steps and holding themselves accountable, that's a great way to continue to build and also get great value for not just yourselves, but for those individuals as well. So let's talk a little bit more about kind of that transition period and some of the systems and procedures that you need to go to get the 250 units that you have for next year. What are some of the processes and steps that you're implementing to be able to reach those goals that you've set forth?
Yeah, so you are bringing up a great question, and it's one that we struggled with. We always, we bought a 3-unit, a 5-unit, a 2-unit, and then we're wondering, how do we get up to this portfolio where, we want 250 units? How do you get there? What's the gap? I can't keep just burring out, 2 units. It's going to take longer than I want it to take. So we came together and we're scratching our heads, talking to other people. That's something that we do when we're unsure about something. We'll reach out to our network, and we learned about syndication. And so that was a big game changer for us. One of the best resources, and we can talk about this later as well, but we got this book that kind of laid out a roadmap for how to set up a syndication business. It's the best ever book on apartment syndication by Joe Fairless, and that was really valuable to us. We picked it up about 6 months ago and have been able to follow some of the guidance on there. We didn't understand the legal structure for syndication prior to doing that, so it kind of brought the whole thing together. We've only worked with debt partners in the past. We've never had equity partners. Joe and I have never sold off shares of DropCatch. We've always kept everything just between the two of us. So this is a newer thing, a newer concept for us to be going after. The biggest hurdle before setting those systems up was just a mindset that we could do it though. We get wrapped up in, we did a 2-unit, so next we need to do a 5-unit. We did a 5-unit, so next we need to do a 10-unit. So being able to say that the processes will stay the same from what we have now to bigger ones was the first step. And then after that, it was identifying which team members we need, identifying markets where we'd like to invest with intention based on the way the demographics and multifamily market are changing in the area. Find a list of buildings that meet our criteria. What year do we want buildings to be built? How many apartments can we go after? How much money can we raise? And we got through all of that. And you caught us at a really interesting point, because now we just built out our whole marketing campaign for going after after these buildings. And so it's an exciting time for Joe and I because we're right on the brink of hitting the go button.
That's awesome. Good to hear. And yeah, that Best Ever Apartment Syndication book by Joe Fairless is a very, very popular book for anyone looking to get into syndication. You should definitely check it out. Joe's obviously a friend of the program and definitely a great resource to have there. You started talking about your marketing program or your marketing plan. I don't want you to divulge everything, but maybe you can give us just a little brief snippet of something unique that you're trying to do.
Yes. So high level, we use a program called Reonomy, and it helps us find the off-market deals, and it gives us a lot of great information that helps us really narrow in on who we want to target. So, for example, in the market we're looking at, we have about 200 owners that we want to target. So once we get that list, we then send direct mail to them. But we're not like trying to buy a single family distressed home or somebody that's in a distressed situation. So like big red and yellow letters isn't going to work. So instead, we kind of just send a little bit of a mindset primer for them. So it's not branded. It's not saying like, sell me your property. It's more so just like, hey, do you know the benefits of networking? Do you know the benefits of, talking with people about off-market deals? Do you know how much like you could actually earn more money by selling off-market? Really nothing to do with selling their property other than getting them prepared for when the cold call comes and we're like, hey, have you ever thought about selling your property? Do you want to meet up? And not taking it as a robotic approach, but more so like a personable approach where we really get to know that person, sit down with them, figure out what they need and want, and then kind of come to an agreement with them.
So we think this is kind of an innovative strategy. We've never heard anybody doing anything like this. We don't know if it's even going to work. So like this is totally new for us. But we're sending out a couple direct mail postcards where we're just kind of saying like, hey, everybody knows networking is good. Here's a few of the reasons why. So then when they get a call from us, they might be a little more receptive to it. I don't know, might work, might not, but I think it's worth trying. Yeah. We're also sending a direct mail where we're offering them, this one's from our company, from Joe and I. We say, hey, here's a free white elephant gift. Go to dropandcatch.com, use this gift card, and buy a bottle opener. And then when we make the call, that's something we can follow up on. It's relevant to our story, and I think sets us apart a little bit.
Makes it more of a warm call than a cold call. We just want them to like be receptive to just talking to us because we know we're not going to catch everybody at the right time where they're ready to sell their building. But we are looking for people where their loans are maturing soon. They do have to make some sort of decision on these big multifamily properties. So it's just like a perfect primer to get them to meet with us. Like we don't even want to sell them on the call. We just want to set up a meeting, talk about if they're ready to sell and when they're ready to sell. So.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is that it's a longer process than a single family home, right? Single family home, someone's distressed, that they need to sell pretty much immediately or whatever the time frame is. And you go in and you try to have that all in one conversation, right? You talk to them about the house, their loan, what would you take for the property? What if I were to make you an offer today? You can pretty much wrap that up in one 30-minute conversation or, getting out there to view the property. With multifamily, you're not really facing that many distressed seller situations. So it really is more about nurturing relationship, getting that seller comfortable with who you are as a buyer, and then ultimately at least letting you have a crack at putting together an offer before they take it to the open market, right? So if you can at least come and put together an offer before they decide to list it with the broker, you at least have a leg up on the competition there. So I think that's a smart approach to start building that relationship, identifying who these sellers are, because even if it does go to market with a broker, at least they know who you are in that process, so you can still compete versus, if you didn't have that opportunity to get in front of that seller. So good. We're going to transition to our bullseye round. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right. How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success?
So we like to look at failures as just opportunities to learn. We've pivoted so many times. We've pivoted where we have a direction we want to go and we're driving north. And then we hit a roadblock. And instead of like this isn't going to work, we pivot just a little bit and then come back. We had a house that we were selling that we had done a rent to own, and it was because the rehab had gone a little more expensive than we thought it would. When does it not? And we had these rent to own buyers in place, and we had to get a little creative with kind of letting them get financing that would work for them. They ended up being able to get a VA loan that worked, but the whole thing was going to fall apart. And so we kind of learned, when do you throw in the towel and just say this is done? And when do you say, well, why don't we just try one of these other things? Why don't we sit down and think of a few ways where we could potentially turn this around? And it worked for us.
Love it. What is a book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
Yeah, I personally, I just read the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, and he's out there, he really gets his message out, but I really love the messaging behind it, because when we started getting into the syndication, for example, we had a goal initially to raise like $800,000 and get a smaller multifamily property where we just use our network. And then it kind of was like, let's think 10X, let's think bigger here. It's like, what if we were able to raise $8 million and get a much bigger building? So that's when we decided, hey, we should go talk to our potentially new partner, who is now our partner, and think bigger, try to grow bigger. Let's not get a 25 unit building, let's get a 250 unit building. And that I highly recommend that book.
Then there's also the Joe Fairless one, the best ever apartment syndication, which we recommended. For me, it was 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, which is kind of a book that teaches you that it's okay to be uncomfortable. That if you want to progress, you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. You need to almost adapt a mindset where being uncomfortable is fun. And that's a book for me that teaches you that you need to be uncomfortable to grow.
All right, give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
Yeah, just to name a few, we got Reonomy, like we were talking about. That's really helped us. And Squarespace, like branding is so important. Like you need a good website, you need a good presence. Like that's your online business card. After this podcast, people might go check out our website. We can't have something that's pieced together and looks unprofessional when we go talk to building owners, etc. So yeah.
We use LionDesk for our CRM as well, which we like because they give you a phone number. So Joe and I work together and we are talking to the same building owners potentially. And if Joe has a conversation or a text thread or something and I don't know it, then I can't step in because we work pretty interchangeably. But LionDesk allows us to text and make calls through the app. So I'm able to see if Joe had a conversation, he's able to see if I did. And then it has all the other basics, where you just have your contacts in there, you're able to track follow-ups and everything else that's important for that kind of thing.
What is a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
For me, it's a morning routine. There's this concept that it's like, which I kind of talked about a little bit, where how do you train yourself to enjoy things that are hard? I'm self-employed. I haven't ever had a boss like saying I need to check in at 8 a.m. or something. We have to set that for ourselves. And so I get up early, I go to the gym, I come home, I eat. Meditating is important to me. That kind of sets the mindset framework for the day. And that morning routine is what gives me the clarity to then have not spent a lot of the choices that I have in the morning on deciding all these things that I'm going to do. I kind of just go on autopilot. My habits take me through to the time that I start my workday, and I'm able to be consistent.
Yeah, and I personally, I like just continuing my education and making sure I'm always staying knowledgeable and open to new ideas too. So, I have a little bit of a drive, like about 30 minutes in the morning and then at the end of the day as well. So, I always have a book or a podcast or something playing in the car. It helps zen me out when I'm driving too. Instead of getting caught up in the driving itself, I take that time to actually learn and grow and just better myself and my mindset for whatever I have to do that day. So that's important.
What advice would you give to a smart-driven college student about the real world?
That's such a great question, and I think it's one that applies to almost anybody. But I would say focus on building relationships that are business oriented, even if you don't have a specific interest or a specific path in that field. If you see somebody doing something or acting or behaving in a way that you admire or you look up to, be friends with that person. Make a point of building that kind of network. It might not be valuable to you today, but you never know where that person is going to be. I mean, you're 22 years old. You never know where that person is going to be in 10 years, 15 years. You don't know what you're going to be doing. And the crossover is almost invariably going to be there at some point in your career. So just cultivate business relationships into friendships that you can tap into later on, even if you don't see any specific similarity at the moment.
Yeah, and then also too, as you're young, so you're learning, and I think with most people, like people are listening to this podcast, so like prepare yourself, learn, educate yourself, but don't over prepare where you just, you get paralyzed, you don't do anything. At some point, if you want to do well, you need to act. So even if that means going to like, John's meetup and you're talking to people, just getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, doing something is much better than just sitting there and educating and no action. Like you do need to do something at some point.
And it won't be perfect.
Yeah, and it'll be sloppy, you'll learn, and you'll just get better as you go on. Like it's given.
You got to take action. Absolutely. Yeah. You absolutely have to take action. And that action doesn't have to be buying something immediately, but it may be reaching out to someone, sending an email, having a phone call conversation, doing coffee, going to a meetup, reading a book. Lots of action steps you can take to get yourself prepared, but you need to figure out what is the next viable thing you need to do to continue moving forward in that direction. So great tips there. All right, guys, what are you curious about right now?
A lot of things. Somebody mentioned PACE financing to me recently, it's a type of financing that gets built into your property taxes, and it can be used for green related improvements. That could be HVAC, windows, a new roof, insulation, whatever it might be, geothermal heating, any of this, where you could potentially find a value add play that doesn't make sense with typical financing, but you could build it into this 20-year term, 6% rate, and it gets built into the property taxes and passes on to the new owner. I'm curious if there's a way to find a value add play just using that financing. Don't have an answer yet. I'm curious about it.
Sounds good. All right, guys, you're both in Chicago. Give me the best place to grab a bite in the city.
So this is a throwback to when we started DropCatch. We used to very regularly eat at Smoke Barbecue. It's on Pulaski there, right? Yeah, Pulaski, right by the highway. So good. Their barbecue's out of this world. So
I'm gonna go with the same answer.
Yeah.
All right, Smoke Barbecue. I used to have a 3-unit over there by Smoke, so I used to drive by it almost daily, so know it well. All right, well, guys, this has been a lot of fun. Great information there. For our listeners who want to learn more about you and your story, where can they get in touch?
Yeah, you could go to our website. It's HomeCatchCapital.com. And we also have like a little mastermind group we were talking about. It's pretty informal. So if you want to reach out to us, our emails are joe@HomeCatchCapital.com and Kent@HomeCatchCapital.com.
Yeah, we don't have any marketing or anything for it yet. It's just something we're doing. There's people that come that are just getting started, people that are ahead of us. Everybody's welcome. Reach out to us, shoot us an email. We'll try to organize something in the next couple months online, but feel free. If you're curious, if you're interested, shoot us an email.
No, I love it. Joe and Kent, I love the fact that you guys talked about your e-commerce business, how you got that going, how you started building kind of a smaller portfolio, and then really recognized that you wanted to scale that up and there was an opportunity to make a giant leap and start investing into yourselves to educate yourself and how to make that transition, identifying kind of that partner who was the missing link to move up to the next level, and then 10x your thinking. Instead of focusing on getting a 25-unit building, why not add a 0 to that and focus on getting a 250 unit or adding 250 units to the portfolio? So love that approach and the way you've talked about your mindset and building and really taking that action to move yourself forward. Really good information and really good valuable tips for our listeners. So thank you again for coming on Target Market Insights today.
John, glad to be here. Thank you.